Welcome into a brand new Jock Market Power Hour for this week's Mexico Open. I'm Rick Gaming, that right there, Joe Idoni. And Joe, we are back, and we are back in a very big record-breaking way.
Yes, we'll get into that shortly. It is good to see you after a week off. It is good to see some people, our friends back here in the comments, in the chat. So I'm excited to get this going back on a Wednesday night with you, pal.
Yeah, so there was not a market for Reserve Classic, the team event last week. We've got Mexico Open here. We're going to run it to a designated event for the Wells Fargo next week. It'll be the PGA Championship before you know it, but it's stock market DFS. So we are currently in the IPO phase, which means you can bid on shares of golfers. If you're one of the high bidders, those shares are allocated to you. And then there is a guaranteed payout for each finishing position. So you're really just looking for golfers to outperform their expectation. That is now the caveat with that, Joe, is that's now only one side of the game, right? Jock Market introduced the prop pick'em idea a couple of weeks ago. They've added golf props. I believe the Masters was the first week for that. So now two big different ways that you can play.
Absolutely. So this started out when we started out, there was really only one way to play, and that was to buy guys during the IPO and just continue to stack shares of guys you like. We have shorting both during the event. We have shorting during the IPO now. We have Pick'em added. PGA was recently added for the Masters. I saw that they have some lines up there earlier today. I took a couple for strokes in the first round, and birdies are better, but continuing to sort of innovate and create better platform for the users that are in the app. It continues to grow. So it's been great to see and be along the ride.
Yeah, so we have a promo code. It'll get you a $100 deposit bonus. It's power. There is a link in the description if you want to get involved in one or both of those games. Let me make this a little bit more tangible and show the results from the last time that we had a market, which was 2 weeks ago for the RBC Heritage. That Wednesday night, Matt Fitzpatrick sold for $7.07 per share in IPO and got the full $25 per share payout. So that was $18 of profit for the winner, Matt Fitzpatrick. But if you didn't have the winner, you still would have made money on Jordan Spieth, Patrick Cantlay, Xander Schauffele, Sahith, who finished right behind. So, for example, Sahith sold on Wednesday night at $5.26, got the $15 per share payout, so nearly $10 of profit per share. And even, Joe, I'm looking through this, seeing Scotty Scheffler, who went for a very expensive $10.57 per share. He basically broke even.
Yeah, basically broke even. We'll talk about this a little bit more later with a certain player this week. But yeah, the idea and the concept, and you mentioned it, is a player outperforming their expectation. But sort of the other side of that is if they don't outperform their expectation, if they finish just below their expectation, your dollars are not completely wiped off the slate. You are incrementally earning lower amounts there. So as you see, Scotty Scheffler barely did not meet his expectation mark, but lost you, what, 7 cents a share? So I think we can all live with that on a down week for one of the top players in the world.
I'm going to show you last year's market for the Mexico Open because it's going to be very relevant here shortly. So here is last year, the only time we have played this event in its current iteration. And of course, John Rahm won it. He's looking for a title defense this week. He was $12.99 per share last year, Joe. All of this data available on RickRunGood.com for every cash market that has ever been generated, that has ever been played in the history of Jock Market for golf. This IPO right here, $12.99, was the most expensive IPO ever because, spoiler alert, John Rahm has already broken that with about 40 minutes to go.
Yeah, he kicked down the wall on $13, and the boy is still running hot right now. So we'll see where that kind of ends up here shortly. We have roughly 39 minutes here until IPO close, which those of you who are frequent users of Jock Market know is an eternity for shares to continue to go up. So interested to see, but we already have a record for the highest price player per share ever in the history of Jock Market, and it's John Rahm. And it kind of makes sense, right? We see the odds on the odds board this week. We see the price in DFS and all these different formats. And it is not without some warranted, he's basically earned his way there.
Record-breaking night. John Rahm now owns the 4 most expensive IPOs ever. They are all attached to him. It was this event last year, this event this year, the 2023 Farmers a couple of months ago, and the 2021 Waste Management, John Rahm, all of those IPOs. Let's just get into it. We'll just kick off our bullish and bearish segment, Joe, with that man at the top, John Rahm. And it is a historic week in the jock market. It's a historic week in the outright market. At my last refresh, brace yourself, he was $14.77 per share, nearly $2 full more than the highest mark ever. So if he finishes 5th or better, he would return you a profit there. That would be $15 for 5th place, up to $25 for first. We've got to have the conversation, bullish or bearish, on John Rahm.
Did you say 1477?
1477 for John Rahm.
Oh my God, Rick. The player that I attempt to be in jock market would say this is automatically bearish. It's the concept that I've sort of tried to stick to and have a number in mind and don't go over that number. And you want to buy low and you want to sell high. And this is going to be $2 higher than we've ever seen anyone go. You almost can't do that. But can you in this instance? Like we were talking a little bit about it, and the guy's basically 2.5x your money on an outright ticket. He finishes second, you lose. You have 5 positions here that are still going to gain you a profit, and first place actually gets somewhat close to doubling your money. Like it's not that far off. And the other part of it is even if he doesn't meet that expectation and finishes 9th, 10th, or 11th this week, you're not totally wiped out for zero. So the risk is much lower. The payout is nearly there. It's within the same realm as putting an outright bet on him, but you have so much more finishing position equity that opens up at this price. I mean, for the sake of this, I'm going to say bearish, but am I wrong here? Should we just buy him up?
Yeah. So it is a really interesting conversation to have. I don't think it is an immediate bear on John Rahm, because what you just described, it's not like you're getting 10-1 in the outright market, right? You're getting 2.5, 2.8 to 1 in the outright market. Well, you're getting close to a 2x return if he wins it on this stock price, but so you're getting most of the upside and you're getting a lot of the downside, right? If he finishes second, third, fourth, fifth, if he finishes inside the top 10, he's not going to kill you. He's not going to burn your entire stake. So because his outright number is so low and the way that the guaranteed payouts work on jock market, it is actually a very interesting conversation about whether you should be buying him up or not.
I know it's something that we've never really been this close to having this conversation, particularly at this price point. Given the caliber of player that he is right now, the current form, the run that he's on, the course history, and then you factor in the strength of the field and those other guys that he has to compete against, and it doesn't not make sense if you want to go there. It's probably not going to be for me ultimately, and I'll be bearish in that sense. But if anyone wants to buy up and spend their portfolio on John Rahm this week, I can see where that can be profitable.
So here's the other side of things. If you think that's insane, right, and you think $15 a share is insane, and asking John Rahm to finish 5th or better in a full field of golfers is nuts, you can short this, right? Yeah. You could at your own peril. Let me warn you, but you could, in theory, short this. So the way that would work would be, let's just say it's $15 per share. If he wins the golf tournament, 25 minus 15 is $10 a share. You'd be out 10 times however much you put up. And then if he finishes, say, in 12th, if John Rahm finishes 12th, which would objectively be a very good finish for any golfer in the world at this event, you would make essentially $5 per share. So that's that's the shorting side of things, but again, at your own peril.
Yeah, like I mentioned, we're kind of in unknown territory here because typically, right, with shorting, you're ultimately spending a lot more. So you're ending up putting a lot more dollars on the line than you would be buying on someone. Here's kind of the opposite. Like if he gets to $15,
it's cheaper to short him than it is to buy him.
Exactly. It's cheaper to short him than it is to buy him. And you're making money if he finishes in 6th place.
6th.
For putting down less money to get per share. There's so much uncharted territory this week. It's just going to be super fun and interesting to see how it all plays out over the next 4 days.
Yeah, it really is. Next up is Gary Woodland, who's obviously been catching some steam this week. The fair value that we have on him, which looks at basically how often is he going to win, how often is he going to finish 5th, 10th, etc., takes how much it's essentially his expected value. His fair value is $8.26, which would ask Gary Woodland to finish about 17th or better. This is much more in line with what we normally see on a night like this, Joe. So are you bullish or bearish on Gary Woodland?
You know what? I'm bullish on Gary. I do not have the stones to take an outright position on Gary this week. I missed some of the very good numbers that were out there early on Monday morning. And once those passed and I saw the numbers that were currently available, immediately what came to mind is let's see if I can get a position in Jock Market, because I actually do like his chances this week. I love the way that the course actually sets up for Gary. The ball striking has been on a fantastic run, maybe one of the best of his entire career. And, you know, frankly, this is a golf course that you've got to be able to hit your long irons very good. You're ultimately probably going to have a 5 or even a 4 iron in your hands more this week in Mexico than you will the entire season. And I know that's always been one of the hallmarks of Gary Woodland's game. I know that's always been one of the strengths that he possesses. So I think that between the course fit and the current form that he's been showing, I'm excited to kind of see where this ends up for him. I will say bullish.
Yeah, I think bullish if it fits your goals, right? Because I agree with everything you've said. He's showing a little bit of putting prowess. This is a place that should set up well for him, but I still think he's skewing more volatile than most guys. Now, the way that I like to build my portfolios is generally with a lot of risk and with a lot of reward. So as long as that kind of fits into your goals, I think Gary Woodland's a great buy. Like the way he sets up for this place. Let's turn our attention to a name that probably has not been front of mind for a lot of people, but this week he seems to be catching a little bit of steam, and it's Chez Reavie, believe it or not. And we've got his fair value tonight, Joe, which he's already over. His fair value is $323. He's already over that. So let's call it $5. $5 for Chez Reavie, which would be 34th or better. Are you bullish or bearish on Chez Reavie?
Bearish for me. He's had 2 decent starts in a row, albeit I think that they are vastly different tests of a player than what you're going to see this week. If you zoom out a little bit, in his last 10 starts on Jock Market, he's lost you money in 7 of them. I know that he had a decent finish here last year. I think it was, I don't know what to attribute it to, because by every metric that you look at, driving distance was an extremely important factor in what played out last year, and that's not his game whatsoever. There you go. His short game, he gained almost 6.5 stroke short game. That'll usually do it. I don't see it this week. Look, I've listened to some player interviews. I talked with David, and he had spoken to Boo Weekly, and Boo said it was the longest course he's ever played in his life. Like, the shorter hitters are really going to struggle this week and have hybrids and 3-woods into a lot of these greens on par 4s. And that's just not sustainable through 72 holes, in my opinion, without, you can have that one tournament, but if he plays this thing 4 times, I think he misses the cut 3 of them. So I'm going to say bearish on Chez.
I'm with you. He had a good finish here last year. He lost 3 strokes off the tee. He's going to lose 3 strokes off the tee again.
Yeah,
He's just too short, right? And he's just not getting enough by being accurate. This is not a place for him. And you talked about those good, these good recent finishes that are probably driving some of this desperation towards Chez Reavie. And I could not, if I put the list of things that are different about Harbor Town to Vidanta Vallarta, I mean, we wouldn't have time to finish this show, right? I mean, they could not be more different in terms of golf courses. So, yeah, I'm out on Chez Reavie. I will take a bearish stance as well. And then finally, we will wrap this segment up with Nikolai Hojgaard, who is currently at, well, I don't want to say what he's currently at, I'll refresh it in a second, but $9.47 is his fair value. That's about 13th or better. So where do we stand here on young Nikolai?
I'm torn, to be quite honest with you, Rick. I want to be bullish, but I think the price is going to get to the point where I'll be bearish. I kind of want to hear your opinion on it. When I look sort of at some of his jock market numbers, he's really only been in the 2 starts that are sort of measured here, because we didn't get to Zurich. And if you go back to all like the previous 8 starts for him, 6 of those were from last summer, basically, and before that, in which case he missed every cut, right? Now, he obviously had a great finish there a few weeks ago in Corrales, and then it followed that up with Valero Texas Open, where he basically broke even in jock market. I'm going to say, for the sake of the segment, bearish, but I'm very close. Where are you at?
I'm pretty bullish, I think. I definitely skew on that side of things. You're right? If you're not, the jock market, that's not going to show all the European Tour stuff that he's played and all the stuff that he's played well in, right? That was basically at the start of 2023, and then he finishes runner-up in Punta Cana, which I think is a pretty good correlation to Vidanta Vallarta. And I think he just is a high upside, talented golfer who can move it off the tee, who is starting to get comfortable now. His fourth straight PGA Tour start. I think it takes a little bit of time to work into these things. I definitely am on the bullish side of things here.
Okay.
Fair. All right, let's conclude that bullish or bearish segment. I'll remind everyone that the code you're looking for a $100 deposit bonus is POWER. There is a link in the description. You can get rocking and rolling over there. Get involved in not only the stock market side of things, buying, shorting, but also on the props side of things. And now for the rest of the 27 minutes or so, we are going to look at the live pricing, and I'll just show you. John Rahm, 1484. So we're getting there. We're getting close to that $15 per share. Gary Woodland, who we talked about, nearly half that, $7.75. And here's old Patrick Rogers at $7.30. The only other golfer at the moment above $7 per share, Joe, Tony Finau. So we've got Woodland, we've got Rogers, we've got Finau currently fighting for second best in this market. How do we think this is going to shake out? And is there one guy that you prefer over another?
So I'm very intrigued with what's going to happen with Tony Finau. Okay. The fair value projection of 1248, I think, is way too high. That's 50 cents off the highest that we've ever seen anyone before today at 12.99. Right. And you factor in that the odds makers and most people believe that John Rahm holds like 40% win equity this week.
Is that all?
There's 60% left over. And sure, Finau holds a pretty decent chunk of that. What I will say, though, is the finishes this year, while the numbers and stats look pretty solid, he hasn't really been in contention, right? Like, I believe in the last 6 or 7 events, his like a T19 is his best finish. And name me one Sunday in the past 2 or 3 months where Tony Finau has really been that relevant. It just hasn't happened. And what you see there is he's been bouncing back and forth between like, okay, I have a decent around the green week, but I lose a lot putting. Okay, I have a decent putting week, but I'm getting crushed around the green. He's failed to put both of those together simultaneously in an event in his last, what it looks like 7 or 8 starts there. The other thing for me that is a little bit disconcerting about Finau is normally a great long iron player. I would consider him very much in the mold of Rahm or Woodland, who are 1 and 2 this week in terms of over 200-yard approach shots, right? 200-plus range. Finau's 47th right now in the last 36 rounds played. So something is a little bit off there. I'm interested depending on the price, but I do also have some concerns about Finau that I just haven't seen the peak performance that we sort of became accustomed to during the fall swing.
Yeah, I think it's fair, right? I mean, he is still very much by far the second best player in this field. Not even remotely close, but compared to himself, he has not been as good, which I think is a valid concern when you're looking to invest potentially $12.50 per share into a golfer if you believe the fair values. Now, after that, so after like the darlings of Rahm and Woodland and Rodgers and Finau, and I'll even throw, Wyndham Clark into the mix. He's definitely going to make his way up the board here shortly. It is wide open after that. Just golfer 5 through 50 might as well be the same guy, right? So we have got to start figuring out how to separate Ben Martin at 580 down to at least like Eric Cole at 435. It includes, Alex Smalley's at 565, Harry Hall at 440, 454. Anything in here that you see that's got your attention?
Yeah, so there are some guys that I'm interested in. I'm really looking at the key metrics of long iron play and honestly driving distance. And driving distance is not normally something that I put a whole lot of emphasis on because I feel like sometimes we see, okay, this player was 13th in driving distance and this guy's 36th, and we're talking about 3 yards, right? At this course, I do think that 5 or 6 yards off the tee can matter because it ultimately comes down to club head speed, ball speed, and if you're able to drive it farther, you're typically able to come in with shorter irons because you hit those farther as well. So there are a number of guys like a Will Gordon is someone I have my attention on this week, but you nailed it, man. Like if you from like Hojgaard, like there's like 40 players and just take your pick, right? Look at the thing, but there's not a lot of differentiating in terms of what you will see on a week-to-week basis on the PGA Tour in terms of upside. I do think if Rahm slips a little bit this week, it's a great opportunity for a lot of these players. Like we saw Cam Champ with the actual legitimate chance to close this thing down last year. Who was the other guy in contention late with Rahm as well? Kitayama, yeah, which was going to be a total breakthrough performance for Kitayama, the best we had seen yet from him. So this is a spot where if you look at players with similar skill sets to them, which is ultimately guys who pound it off the tee and can hopefully have a decent putting week, I think you'll find you can have a handful sort of in this next range, and you can probably get some cheaper ones at $3-4.
Yeah, so if we, it actually becomes a good point. So I think that, in the conversation of a lot of these guys are the same, those final couple minutes of this power hour, Joe, being agile feels like a valuable skill set, right? Not getting necessarily tied to a golfer that you love if they're all the same, the agility to be able to say, okay, too expensive, let me go move on to somebody else and find that value.
Right. What's your sort of like sticking point on narratives in terms of this week in particular? And what I mean by that is I think we all have an idea of what this course is going to reward in terms of what the things that I mentioned, long irons and driving distance. But at some point, everyone with the exact same narrative tends to inflate the value of those players. And maybe we have a diminished value on someone like Chez Reavie, on someone, I'm trying to think like Andrew Putnam this week, or even Maverick McNeely. Maybe he's not the best example, but guys who are not in the top 50 in driving distance, but maybe you can catch a little bit of value on this week because maybe we're overinflating that. Like, where do you see that playing out for this course?
There's a lot of guys who are, top 60 players who just don't drive it far, but they just put the ball like Andrew Putnam is a good example, right? Or someone like Matt Wallace or Emiliano Grillo, right? Like finding guys who, or even the guys that do hit it far that aren't playing well, right? Taylor Pendrick's a great example. Like he's been bad. But there's other options, right? People can go to Luke List. They can go to Wyndham Clark. They can go to Gary Woodland. They don't have to go to Taylor Pendrith. In fact, Taylor Pendrith's the 11th. I'll just show you. He's the 11th pre-ranked golfer. So yeah, I agree. We are congregating on the same types of things and the same 6 to 8 guys. You don't have to go that far outside the circle to find the interesting ones as well.
Yeah, and there's always a few, right? Like we mentioned Chez last year. Brandon Wu's another one who actually finished, I think, second here
Mhm.
last year, who certainly isn't known for his prowess and bang off the tee. But there's always those guys. But Pendrick is, I think, is a great example when you look at what his weakness is. He's really not a good wedge player, right? And you're going to have less wedges this week and shots inside of 150 yards than you may have the entire year. So anything that sort of diminishes or devalues a weakness in a player, I think gives them an additional sort of bump this week up my sort of power rankings, at least.
Yeah, so we've got some slow moves. So here's the top 10 in the pre-rank, and pre-rank's important. That's how we break ties here. So John Rahm will break every single tie. If he finishes in a 9-way tie for second, he's getting the full second place payout. So we've got the top 10 here. Little movement on Andrew Putnam and Maverick McNeely so far. Matt Wallace, Alex Noren, Aaron Rai. I mean, Aaron Rai has played well as of late. Is there an opportunity, Joe, if we extend this down to even the top 15, which goes to Bo Hostler, some of these guys who haven't moved yet, are you clicking them on the leaderboard, adding them to your favorites?
Aaron Rai is definitely one that I have favorited. Alex Noren as well. Maverick McNeely is a very intriguing option to me. I don't know the full story with him, although I know that if you sort of rewind the clock and put this same market up 6 months ago, he's probably the third or fourth highest priced player in the field. Things have not been good. Is there, what have you heard?
Yeah,
It's injury related to
he
some
was hurt.
degree.
It was a shoulder injury that was happening before Phoenix, and then Phoenix was bad. I know that. And then that kept him out until the Players. But when he's returned, I don't know if he is still hurt. I don't know if he rushed back because the metrics are very, very bad. I don't know if he's fully healthy. You also see, I think it was a shoulder, Joe. So like the long game, you see these guys sometimes when they're back from an injury, they tweak their swing or their setup because they're trying to protect something. Yep. And now they're working through that. So this is it's a pretty concerning stat profile.
Yeah, I see that now. The more that I look at sort of this page that you have up there, the more red I see. and just the dip, man, the dip in the valley there off sort of a peak performance is definitely problematic.
And I don't like when you have it like an event, right? The event was he was actually injured. I know that for a fact. And now it's just, he takes time off and coming back from it hasn't been great. It's not just like bad play and maybe he figures it out at some point. Haven't seen that as much.
Right.
All right, the market is open or at least the IPO phase is open for about another 17 minutes or so. It's going to close just around 9 p.m. Eastern time tonight. So it's going to continue to heat up. I do have to give you an update here because we've just hit another magic number. John Rahm is at $15 per share. So there he is, $15 per share. We were already at an all-time high. This is now fifth or better to break even for Rahm. I don't know. What else do we have to say about this? It's pretty incredible stuff.
Pretty incredible. Unbelievable to see. This is a landmark week in terms of jock market that we may never see something quite like this again. Depending on how this result ends up, I think will dictate the future of golfers ever going for $15 again.
If he misses the cut, we'll never see this again.
Oh my God. Yeah.
That's so funny. All right. Couple of darlings here. I mentioned Luke List. I'm not an investor of Luke List on a regular basis, but I think this is a pretty decent week for him. MJ Duffy's at $4.90 right now. He's been playing really well. He's been a winner in the jock market in 4 of his last 5, with 3 of those being triple digit, or I'll round up for him, 98% triple digit returns. Is there anybody kind of here from this $5 range to $4 range, Wyndham Clark to David Lipsky, that you will be taking an investment in tonight?
You know what? I actually have some interest in Augusto Nunez. I actually bet him this week at sort of a long shot for a couple bucks at like 150 to 1. He had a really awesome Corn Ferry Tour summer last year. There was a span from like June and July where, there you see it, which was like T6 in 4 straight events, which was really solid for him. Some good performances, I believe, not only at Corrales, but Puerto Rico. I think he had a nice finish as well. So, those are the type of players that I have a little bit of interest in. Vincent Norman is another one that I bet who's long hitting off the tee. So those are a couple maybe of the lesser known guys, but do you have anyone from, you mentioned, who was it, Toasty earlier? I know you know every golfer professional on the planet. So do you got any good Central America guys that I can get for $2 today?
So it's funny. It's funny. The two you named I really like. Nunez just, I mean, he hits it a mile. He's very good with his long irons. Norman is one of the longest hitters out. I mean, he is just a real stud. I did mention Alejandro Tosti earlier, and you can see it. I'll round here, but it's basically 5 top 30s in his last 6 starts. Now he is a Corn Ferry guy here, Joe. Like he doesn't have PGA Tour status, but I would argue this very much resembles a Corn Ferry Tour event, right? If you this is going to be the 3rd weakest field of the year behind Puerto Rico and Punta Cana. But if you removed John Rahm and Tony Finau from it, it would. I mean, those guys are doing a lot of heavy lifting of the OWGR strength of field numbers. So I'm fine with these guys who are thriving on the Corn Ferry. No problem with that.
What would John Rahm's odds be in the Club Car Championship on the Corn Ferry Tour?
I guess
even odds, maybe.
I was going to say even. Yeah, minus 150. I don't know. Somebody would get freaky with it, right? But the Club Car Championship at the Landings. Yeah, that would be fun to see. Here's the next section of the board, kind of the $4 range down to the $3 range. I'll point out, just one or two here. Nico Echeverria, I mean, he won the Puerto Rico Open, which was just like 5 starts ago. So he's here at $3.02. Joe, we talk about guys, like Harry Higgs or Andrew Novak at times. Anybody have your attention here in the $3 range?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this guy a couple of times, but Dylan Wu's been kind of printing money in the jock market. I think 5 of the last 6, he's been a profitable player. So I think a lot of people are going to gravitate maybe more so to Brandon this week off the good performance last week, but don't sleep on Dylan Wu either. You mentioned Luke List earlier. I do have some love for Luke List this week as well. And then there are a couple of just like I talked about Will Gordon and just like young rookie-ish, like good talented players that have yet to sort of break through. Like I think about Nick Hardy and Davis Riley last week, like those type of guys. Will Gordon I kind of put in that mold. Maybe someone like Tyson Alexander, young, a very talented, a rookie, can kind of be in that mold, who's looking for an event that he really needs to top 5 to solidify himself and for his own confidence as a PGA Tour player. I think that this could be a good week to potentially roll out some players with a lot to prove, but the talent on the back end that they've showcased at every level to sort of back that up.
Dare we step into the second page of the market here for the Mexico Open, and you will find names like Scott Brown and Scott Harrington and Satoshi Kodaira and Adam Long and Kevin Tway. Kevin Tway, what's he been up to? Because he can hit it to, it's pretty ugly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 losses in a row for Kevin Tway. I mean, I know like anytime you get a golf course where people perceive distance to be the separator, Bramlett's here, but I think I draw the line on like the pure one-trick ponies.
True. There are a couple guys though, like Pendrith. I may need to refresh here, but it's showing $1.75. Matt Wallace, Matt Wallace is $1.10. He's the 8th pre-ranked player, and the guy just won the Corrales. Like, is the Corrales a decent course comp, you think? Because even before that, good finish at the Valspar, backed up after the win at the Valerio with a decent finish. Like $1.10. It's basically 10 cents a share.
It's basically free. Yeah. That's shockingly wrong, right? I mean, he's gonna have to move, but you're right. Good call on Wallace there. I think everybody has their money tied up in Rahm.
Yeah,
have not hit the rest of the top 10 yet.
Right.
Let me refresh this and see if we have a little bit of movement in that top 10, because you're right. There was, I mean, Bo Hostler was still, he's 15th, but like what's the case against Bo? I mean, he was in it with Wyndham Clark.
He was really good last week too.
And he hits it further than you think he does.
Right. And I think that there's inconsistency there, which you worry about, but this is, I think, a perfect field and a great setup for sort of his skill set. I'm just still on the second page and looking at some guys, like it's still at $1 right now. Like Ryan Gerard has played good in some events. Callum Tarrant, we were all very high on. He hits it a mile. Like, he's been in poor form. He missed like a bunch of cuts in a row, but could this be a spot he bounces back? Austin Eckroat, like these type of players. Dylan Fratelli hits it a long way. He's $1. Like they're all essentially nothing right now. So it's kind of a unique scenario where we have one player at the top eating up so many dollars in this market that may potentially present some opportunities if you want to go, if you want to go diving in the dumpsters.
Yeah, just in the top 20 of pre-rank, which just being alone being in the top 20 of the pre-rank is valuable.
Yes.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 golfers who have not cracked $1.50. Yeah. So basically half of the top 20 has not cracked $1.50 with 9 minutes to go.
Sure. And we'll see the movement. We know we will. We always do. There's so many, I think he told me there's an average of 400 to 500 people in these markets on the low end. So we're going to see the movement. We're going to see the dollars come in, and it's just a matter of time. But this late, you're still likely for it to eclipse a fair value projection. I feel like it's still pretty unlikely, especially with so much of the equity tied up in Rahm.
Yeah, and we're seeing a little bit of it now. Wallace is up to 559. There we go.
Okay, there's the
Aaron Rye 509, Bo up to $3, SH Kim $4, Taylor Pentra 301. So here it comes. It's coming. We've got a couple minutes remaining, and I do want to see if there's anybody else that we might have just glossed over. I like that you mentioned Tyson Alexander. We saw him pop. I think it was at Honda or somewhere, but he's $2.66. Love the way he plays. Love his swing. Is there anyone else that we think is worth a mention before we turn this into, the horse race time where we're coming down the home stretch?
I was looking at Carson Young a little bit just because he's had some good performances. I think that I do think there's also a lot of value kind of in this middle range, in the Hostler, the Alex Smalley range. We didn't mention Benny On, but these type of players who may not have a first or a second in them with Rahm and Finau in the field, but they do hold a good bit of win equity if you look at like a top 20 market this week. And if you can get them at around, $6 per share, you're basically asking them to finish 28th or better, and you don't lose any of the downside in really missing the top 20. So I think that that's always a good way to sort of pay attention to it, and we try to look at that. But as you mentioned earlier, like things happen so quickly over the next 6 minutes here. Sometimes it's hard to have too much information flowing in at the same time. But the mid-tier there's a lot of guys who are very even in terms of what I think is talent and skill set.
Last thing before I let you go, what will John Rahm's finishing price be?
I would have never thought he got to $15, but I think it kind of holds there. I'll say 15, 20 more cents in him.
I'll take 15.50.
All right.
We'll see what happens. All right,
Joe, better. Jeez, oh man.
Yeah, could you imagine? So, all right. So Joe's going to go put his bids in. He's going to try to steal golfers from you. You are going to do the same to him, and we will rendezvous with him in just a few minutes when this IPO closes, and we will see the portfolio that he assembled and how it looks compared to the portfolios that you have assembled. So by my clock, it is 8:54 p.m. Eastern time. So we've got about 6 minutes to go until this IPO closes. It doesn't mean it's over. In fact, it's really just beginning. This is IPO. Then you go into live trading. You can short now. You can short later. You can really do whatever you want. There's not a ton that you can't do. So I'll take you the rest of the way here. If you want to get involved, the code you're looking for is POWER. There's a link in the description. It'll get you your $100 deposit bonus. John Rahm, 15. I said that right. $15 per share. The most expensive IPO we have ever seen in the 3 years we have been doing this, and it is not even close. That is asking John Rahm to finish 5th or better. As Drew in the chat points out, he says 5th or better to break even seems fair considering his top 5 odds are -150.
Really? Wow.
Drew's not wrong.
He's not.
Drew is not wrong. So $15, there might be more juice to squeeze out of John Rahm. Tony Finau, $9 per share, is currently the second most expensive golfer in this market. There has only been a handful of times in jock market history that Tony Finau has been over $9. I believe this is going to be the 3rd or 5th such occasion. At $9 a share, that's asking him to finish 14th or better, though his fair value is still $3.50 more expensive. So we expect some movement out of Tony Finau. Here was that Wyndham Clark surge that we were expecting to see a little bit earlier, $8.75. He's still $2 away from his fair value, but Wyndham Clark has been a winner in, count them, 5 straight jock markets in 6 of his last 7, and 2 of those have been triple-digit wins. Doesn't even include the Zurich Classic run that he made last week with Bo Hostler. Fourth, $7.77, and actually they're kind of together. Nikolai and Gary Woodland, $7.77, $7.76, with Patrick Rogers rounding out the $7 golfers at $7.30. Let me refresh this board. We got about 4 minutes to go, and we'll see how that sub $7 range is doing, and we'll see if John Rahm has moved off of $15. He technically has $15.01. That is technically moving. Here's the $6 range. Spearheaded by Bo Hostler, the 15th pre-ranked golfer, was a winner at the RBC Heritage, 44% ROI there, and of course, played well with Wyndham Clark last week. Aaron Rai, 10th in the pre-rank, is currently $6.40. He and Bo Hostler lead Emiliano Grillo, who plays well at Pass Palm golf courses, Benny On, 612, and Will Gordon at 606. All of those guys pre-rank below 25th. A lot of question marks around Maverick McNeely. Got a very good, very generous pre-rank of 5th. That's a good thing. Very valuable. However, 6 straight losses for McNeely, and they're pretty ugly. 599 asks Mav to finish 28th or better. If you think he can do that, buy him up. You think he's not going to? Short him. Go for it. Have at it. Who else is in this range? Steven Yeager's been playing great golf. Ben Martin's been playing great golf. Martin missed the cut at the Zurich Classic with Chesson Hadley last week. Here's Taylor Pendrith, who has not been playing well, but you think, hey, maybe he goes to a golf course that rewards his strengths, minimizes his weaknesses. Maybe this is the spot for him. $5.76. S.H. Kim, well-rounded. Doesn't have a lot of sexy traits. Doesn't have a lot of horrible traits. He's $5.67. He got a very good pre-rank. That's 12th. He's coming off of a win in the jock market, 80% ROI at the Texas Open. I'm going to refresh. I've got 8:58, about 2 minutes to go or so until this thing is over. We'll see how far John Rahm can go, and we'll see how the rest of this board shakes out. Okay, 525. We're over Joe's guess of 1520. He's at 1525. Here comes Tony Finau. 1139. That's asking Finau to finish 9th or better. The money's rolling in now. I want to point out a couple of big jumps since the last time I refreshed. Dylan Wu, $4.28. He's over his fair value. Vincent Norman has nearly doubled his. He's $4.19. Augusto Nunez, 50 cents over his fair value. He's $4 a share. For reference, $4 a share is 42nd or better. If you think Augusto Nunez can finish 42nd or better, $4 per share is a pretty darn good price for that. Going to the second page, seeing if we can find a little bit of value here. Dylan Fratelli just passed his fair value, but still only $2.99 per share. He hits it a long way. Maybe someone you'd be interested in. Cody Gribble, $2.94. Big time return at the Valspar, 484% ROI. Mostly losses outside of that. I'm going to try to
We're closed.
Oh my
officially.
gosh. Wow. All right. Shut it down. Very early.
Good call down the stretch there. Where did we cross your mark on Johnny Rahm?
I don't know. I'm going to try to refresh and see if I have the final numbers. I think I do. Okay. So here's where we're at. We've got the final numbers. We're going to look at these. We're going to talk about who Joe got. We are going to, we're going to discuss everything. I'll just tell you, 1551.
Woo! Unreal.
Which is exactly his fair value for tonight.
Is it? That's insane.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I don't know. I forget who it was. Was it? Yeah, Drew, who said, have you ever heard of a top 5 odds in minus money? That's wild. Like uncharted territory. I'll say it again this week. I am anxious for those who have shares of John Rahm and excited to see kind of how this pans out. And if he's able to pull this thing off, would be pretty epic.
All right, let's see your portfolio, Joe. And I think you're still on a winning streak because I think you had Fitzpatrick.
I did have Fitzpatrick top 10 again at the Heritage. It's been like 7 straight events in the top 20.
Things are going good for Mr. Tour Picks.
Okay.
All right.
Ready to roll?
Let's see what you got. Yeah.
Gary Woodland.
Okay.
802 per share on Gary. In the $6, actually $6 even, Alex Smalley. Then I moved down into the $5 range where I got some shares of Brandon Wu. In the $4 range, I ended up with Dylan Wu and Augusto Nunez and Vincent Norman, all guys who we talked about. And then my 2 sort of deep dives in the dumpster were Tyson Alexander and Matty Schmid at $3.29. So the majority of those guys are around a 40th place finish or better, with the exception of Woodland and Smalley. So I missed the guys at the very top, obviously, but I'm just hoping to sort of play the ROI game and have these guys finish better than their projected position.
Well, I like that you put your money where your mouth is, because you spoke highly of all of these guys. Woodland, Smalley, Brandon, and Dylan Wu, Augusto Nunez, Vincent Norman, Tyson Alexander, Matty Schmidt. So Joe did exactly what he said he was going to do. That's a solid little portfolio there. Snoopaloop, Akshay, and Brent Grant. That's it. Small but targeted.
There we
Woodland, Nikolai, Dylan Wu, Akshay, Nunez, Goya, Toasty for Kevin 89. Putnam, Benyon, Bramlett, Ben Martin, Eric Ola. Okay, he's filling it up here. Eckroat, Nunez, Novak, and Gribble for JG Funk. Here's an addition. Eddie got Brent Grant, Dylan Fratelli, James Hahn, Tano Goya, Richie Warinsky. No one in the chat has who got Rahm.
Yeah, who got Rahm?
Where
are you at, Austin?
Shares?
Yeah.
Where are the Rahm shares? I was told there were Rahm shares.
Somebody got him. Somebody who's a silent assassin came in at 1551 there.
1551, John Rahm, highest mark ever.
$2.52 higher than we have ever seen in the jock market before. 252 he broke the record by. I didn't see that coming, I'll tell you. That I knew he was going to break it, but where he finished is impressive.
All-time high for Tony Finau, who has never broken $10 before, went for $11.65.
Okay.
So that is
need a top 10, right?
9th or better.
Yeah.
Wyndham at 910. So he came out of the pack as golfer 3, and then a gap of over $1 to Gary Woodland.
Yeah.
So basically, John Rahm in a tier of his own, Finau in a tier of his own, Wyndham Clark in a tier of his own, Gary Woodland in a tier of his own, and then everybody else behind that.
Everybody else behind him. Yeah, surprised that McNeely kind of went that high, but you have Hojgaard and Rogers there around the same price. And then kind of as we talked about, there was just a bunch of guys from like 650 to 450 who are all pretty close.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I don't love the McNeely thing.
Yeah, me neither.
Hostler at 641, which is a top 25, is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I had some shares. I must have just gotten out bid 610. Yeah, I had shares very late of Steven Yeager that I ended up losing, I think, at like $6. But I do expect him to, I kind of like his chances this week.
Luke List to finish top 30.
Mm-hmm.
That's what his number. Okay, so here's Nunez, $4. So he did finish at $4. So I think I said that was 42nd or better. Sign me up for that.
Okay. Love to hear it. I got some, baby.
That's fun. That's fun. Let's go to the second page and see how bad it is. I got to sort by price.
All the guys we sort of talked about who were $1 all quickly got scooped up and moved off those marks.
As they should. Yeah. I mean, come on. Okay. I'm just kind of looking through here. Max McGreevy, 202.
I get suckered into Wes Bryan's name when I see him. I didn't this week, but $1.79. Like at this point, you're just looking for these guys to make a cut.
Alejandro, 288. So that is, what's 288? 50th? Yeah. 55th or so, 54th, something like that. Okay, cool. I love that. Well, listen, the fun has only just begun, because now we enter the live trading portion of things. So you can go and you can buy up more shares. You can get off of guys. You can wait and see how they do throughout the week. It's going to be a full day of golf, right? I mean, we're back to the full field, 2 waves. Weather looks pristine throughout. Fingers crossed. So I imagine by the time most people wake up on Thursday morning, we're going to be hot and heavy rolling into this thing.
Yeah, you're going to see some early movement. Like you mentioned, full field. We do have the standard cutback implemented this week. So standard format. And then next week, after a quick little breather, we're right back to elevated status, right?
Yeah, Wells Fargo. Yeah. Wells Fargo elevated event, which everybody will actually, I think Rahm has said he's taking the week off, but that's his one skip he's using. And then everybody else seemingly will be there. So very, very excited about that, but we will roll on with Mexico for the next couple of days. And we'll be back same time, same place, 8:15 p.m. Eastern time, Rick Run Good YouTube channel for the Wells Fargo Championship. Big thanks. Joe Idoni, you can follow him on Twitter at TorPicks. You can find me at RickRunGood. This has been your Jock Market Power Hour for this week's Mexico Open. Good luck.